I do want to ask, I just said this to the guys, in season 1, we had a situation set up where you had the audience discovering this show with the characters and what Wayward Pines is, and the mysteries of it, and obviously there are more mysteries. How much more difficult is it now to say, okay, here are new characters, and we already know sort of a lot, not far from everything, but a lot of Wayward Pines. Is that a challenge?
Well, it was fun. I love format, how to tell a story, the structure of a story. Do you tell there's a married couple? Do I tell you they're a married couple first, or no? Are they working together and they hate each other? Then you go home and they're married, and you're like, what? They're married. So even that's interesting, right? But it's a normal story of a couple that works together, that kind of thing. There's so many ways to tell a story. Now, Wayward, the premise that you came up with is it's about time. So you're fucked up in the head all the time, right? You were doing. I was at this thing at WonderCon, and then I wake up and I'm in some kind of, where am I? And they're like, we can't tell you, it'll blow your mind. So just walk down this hall, And I'm like, wait, what's happening? Where are we? That's so fun. There are people asleep in pods. We can wake up anybody at any time. They can be anything, and they're just sitting there, and all we just goes, psst, they open up, and now there's all this drama about who they were and where they came from, and there's such a finite group that's left. So there's a lot of, huge storytelling opportunities, and also because the format is about time, flashbacks are a huge part of what I was doing before. Why did I do this? Why did they pick me? What am I doing here? All of that stuff.
And season 1 was just laying down the premise, honestly. It's not really exploring what it means for Wayward Pines to be Wayward Pines, for these people to be stuck here and to be, trying to figure out the resource issues. How do we continue to just eat water, leadership divisions. So I feel like in a lot of ways, season 2, from a storytelling perspective, is a lot more open and free than season 1. Season 1 was sort of a balancing act of, well, we're going to tell you this, and now we're going to tell you this. And, you think this is happening, but no, this is happening. Well, that's a paranoid thriller, season 1. Season 2 is much more of, what would you say?
It's much more muscular.
Mm-hmm. When I wrote the trilogy itself, the trilogy of books, it's Planet of the Apes. It's more of that. Yeah.
Was the use of time the reason you guys decided to go television show as opposed to movies, so you could really have time to flesh out all of these characters?
Well, I wasn't even part of that. But you guys came to me, so the decision was already made before they offered a TV show. Although, by the way, his ideas, I read his new book. Can I say? I'm not saying anything about his new book. It's badass, by the way. His new book's ridiculous. I read it in 3 days a weekend. No, I was like, so nice. No, it's the truth, by the way. It's killer. Wait till it comes out. Another giant idea. He just comes up with these kind of giant ideas, and you could so easily see them. Again, if we did Wayward as a movie, I'd have 2 hours to do all of that. That's so hard, and so we get to do the opposite, which is now talk about this premise of what is it like to be the last group of people. There's only us left in this room, and the pressure as it's about coming to us about the things. What are we justified to do?
Yeah, I think the conversation, because we did have early on the conversation, film versus movie or versus television show, and it was always a TV show for me because Twin Peaks was like a huge thing for me growing up. That was like the first geek moment I had. That was when I was like, I want to write, I want to understand, and you get to a point where you have an idea like that. So to tell this story in the same format, it sounds silly, but just to tell it in the same format as Twin Peaks, as a television show, as a serial, really appealed to me.
We're blessed to be, I think, making television, or at least joining television for both of us. It was the first show, Wayward, at a time where the formats are not prescribed to you. It has to be 24 episodes in a season. It has to be open-ended, so we can do. We spent all this money on you guys. You're going to just do this forever, kind of thing. It's just that's really depressing. So
this was 22 episodes. We had to do 22 episodes. It would kill me.
It would kill me. It would be impossible. impossible. I would have pieced out for sure. This is impossible. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. I mean, we can barely do 10. Barely do 10. I mean, when you're doing every detail of that line and this line, and making sure it's going the right way. So what we did was we went away and we said, this is before anybody said anything. We just sat down and said, do we have a story to tell? What is the end of the story? And we walked it to the end, and then we said, wow, that's a great story. I would love to know about that story, that kind of biblical story, and where this ends, like a definitive end. How many episodes will that take to tell that story? So we guesstimated, and then we went to the studio and went to the network studio and said, this is what we think it will be. We will not go longer than this. So if you want to do a second season, this is where it's going to end.
Could you talk a little bit about the premise behind the first generation and like their motivations, and then a little bit about how that fractures as the season begins?
I find it immensely this whole premise again, like when he comes up with a premise, it's just so deep. This idea of a generation, right? Like we've been talking about. I should be talking about some of that.
I know.
Stuff that we're talking about, even in the writers' room.
I know. We can talk about it. It's not going to fuck up the show for everyone. It's like they know that little bit.
All right,
okay.
Go ahead.
So the first generation, these in books they're called the originals. The first generation is this group who were born in Wayward Pines. They've always been there. They don't have any institutional memory or connection to our world, and so they see things very differently. And one of the cool things is, this is Wayward Pines, the last town on the planet. What does humanity need to do? They need to reproduce. We need to continue our species. So the whole approach to sex ed, for instance, this is one of the things we're having fun with in season 2, is totally different than our world.
It's flipped.
2 kids come home, out on a date, 13, 14-year-olds going up to the room. The parents are like, hey, you guys should go up to the room and shut the door for a little while. Knock yourself out. Sex is fun. Sex is good. It's this fun, playful approach to this crazy topic that we could only do in Wayward Pines.
Because like every teenager in the world, all they're thinking about is sex all the time, and you're like, great, just keep thinking, do every instinct that you're thinking about, knock yourself out.
A student is late to class, they're like, I'm sorry I was late. I was like, having sex with my girlfriend. Teacher's like, high five.
That's not the way it is now.
Can you talk a little bit about how you put your writer's room together? I mean, you wrote the book, so it's kind of a unique thing of like, I need you to write my material now.
It's tricky, actually, what you're saying. It's really tricky. And also because we initially did it as an event series, and unfortunately, everybody that directed and wrote on that show has their own shows now. It's like everybody just took off and did their own stuff. They're on Netflix doing this, and everybody's got their own shows. And even our actors, Carla's got a show, Melissa's got a show, Terrence has got a show, that little show. I was like, this is ridiculous. Why did we lock all these people up? Everybody, every actor, all the writers, everybody. Well, it was wonderful. Everybody, it was like, an explosion for everybody, and they all got to do their things. And there was these twins that wrote for season 1 that wrote a lot of the episodes, like 5 of the episodes, and they have their own show, the Duffer Brothers now. So find a whole new group of writers and directors to again, which is a super challenging thing. Well, we did it once, we just do it again, and at least there's a season now to say, hey, this is what we're doing. So it's really challenging because you're there, they're learning. We're very specific. We're very much specific, and we're very much in sync. So, we literally don't even talk to each other about our notes because I know that they're almost identical. So when we get on the phone with the writers, we're just finishing each other's thoughts, and they probably think that we've gotten together, but we haven't. We're just having the exact same reactions to the scripts as they're coming in, and so they're learning. And I think we've just now gotten our feet. Like instead of it taking 8 drafts, it's taking 4 drafts. It's like that. It's getting your feet, and that writer knows how to do her. and he knows how to do him, whatever it is, like that kind of vibe that's happening, and we're learning our team again. Luckily, we have them all locked up for our do a final 13, so that we've learned our lesson.
It's a hard show to write. The tone is incredibly specific, and it's a very small idea, but it's also it's set against a very big idea. So there's where you choose to tell your story and which characters you point the camera at is so important. And it's a high challenge for it.
Yeah, because the premise is so heavy and so oppressive always, and we're always giving the note of that's unimportant in light of this the thing. You wouldn't it's like we get frustrated if like the hero and the heroine are having a conversation as the building's collapsing, and you're like, you would never have that conversation at that moment. The building is collapsing. Oh, but we gotta say that because it's character. That same pressure's on us all the time. So it's a tough thing. So that they have to en route find a way to do character work.
Are you directing an episode this season?
No, I'm not. I'm just editing my movie, but
Thanks, everyone.
I'm oppressively on them. I'm sure they hear my voice all the time.